Today I want to talk about one of the best epics in the game that everybody kind of forgot about. Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. I realized just now in my intro that, maybe not everybody forgot about this champion, but I feel like this epic doesn't get enough credit anymore in today's meta, if you will. She's been overshadowed by Newt. If you know anything about Newt and what he does, you can probably guess the epic that I'm going to talk about today. It might even be in the thumbnail, so I'm probably looking dumb right now, but I don't make those. Shout out to my awesome editor. Thank you so much. But Newt kind of took over this role as a turn meter reducing champion. But we all seem to forget about the original, the OG, the amazing epic that is Alure. She is very, very good and a top tier turn meter reduction champion long before Newt ever came along and took away her kind of seat atop in the realm of turn meter manipulation. So let's go over her kit, talk about where she is still useful, why she's so useful. First and foremost, we'll talk about the A1. This is a triple hitter. Now it is 3 times at random, which does impact your ability to, if you're dealing with wave content. This is something that is different than Newt, of course. He will pick a target and hit it 3 times. She will pick a target, but might hit other targets around. Each hit decreases the target's turn meter by 25% as long as it's critical. So you're talking about 75% turn reduction if all of those are critical, which is relatively easy to do because you just build her with 100% crit rate. The only thing that you would then be concerned about is weak hits on a bad affinity. But ideally, you're going to try and avoid those, of course, right? We can't guarantee that you're always going to get the affinity that you want, but for the most part, picking Alure in situations that I wouldn't pick her against. I still would pick her against a force affinity Fire Knight. You just gotta bring a little extra attacks in there, maybe ally attacker or something, right? But I would use her. I think you could get away with against a force affinity Fire Knight. I do believe that. Obviously, that's normal Fire Knight, not hard Fire Knight, and that's where she's really suffered because hard Fire Knight exists now, so people don't talk about Alure as much anymore because she's not useful at all in hard Fire Knight. She can't do a whole lot of anything there. Listen up, I just got a new promo link that you can use to follow along with me on my latest free-to-play adventure and get a free Elenaril as well as 3 more powerful epics as you level up. Here's how to do it. Log out of Plarium Play and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get Elenaril right after signing up, as well as Fayne, Uugo, and Tagoar as you progress through Raid. Click on my link right now and let's crush this together. Couple of sneaky good things about her kit though that people don't talk about. The A2 is a double hitter. Each hit has a 30, 45, 50% chance of placing decreased defense, the little version, but it just outright places a sleep. Oh, it places sleep on targets that get decreased defense. So it's a 50% chance, but on it 2 times. So it's better than 50%, right? You're going to get better odds than that. And if you do land it, then you place sleep. And that's also on targets under decreased defense. So if you have a different champion place decreased defense, she can guarantee that sleep. That's actually really good, and I think that goes kind of under recognized in her kit because you may kind of think about it I'm not really gonna land that decreased defense, so the sleep won't go off. But there are other champions that have better shot at and better versions of the decreased defense anyways, and then you can get those sleeps on that wave clear. So when you're talking about getting through waves to get to Fire Knight, this is something that can really help you out. Furthermore, this is something that can help you out in faction wars as well. If you're looking for an epic to bring in the Demon Spawn faction wars, yes, there are some better Demon Spawn epics, I'm sure, that would probably be more useful, but you do have some but you do have some manipulation of the waves in the form of sleep, which can prove to be pretty effective. Lastly, single target, 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit. and this ignores 50% of the target's defense. So the idea is that this would be a hard hitter, but the reality is this isn't what you use her for. I've never built Alure to be a nuker. I don't know of many people who have. I think the idea here is that it's very counterintuitive to her kit. And I say that because you want her to be at 100% crit rate, or else this isn't going to reduce turn meter. This damage dealing ability gives you 30% extra crit rate, but you would never build her with 70% crit rate, because this then has a 30% chance to not crit, and you don't get the turn meter reduction out of it. So quite frankly, this is just kind of poorly managed between the two abilities. And the only reason that they've never changed any of this is probably because it's just not what she's used for. And, you know, just there's no reason to change her. She's a very popular epic. This is just kind of a non-factor. Like, I don't ever count on this. I don't ever build her for this. This isn't something that I want. This is what I want. I want the A1 to deliver. Now, I've mentioned a lot about Fire Knight. The reality is, I don't do Fire Knight normal anymore on this account or my main account. I'm on my free-to-play, by the way. But where I do use her is in the Doom Tower. So in the Doom Tower, Dark Fae is the rotation. So I'm not going to make a full video, at least not right now, at least not today. I'm not going to make a full video about Dark Fae. But if you don't really understand Dark Fae or you've never done her, she steals your team. You need to kill your team and do your best to prevent Dark Fae from getting any additional turns. If she gets more turns, she will eventually cycle back to her ability where she can steal your team again, and you don't want that. So you really want to minimize the amount of turns that she can get. Therefore, turn meter manipulation, like Alure, is very, very valuable. So we'll go ahead and show that to you here. We'll jump into one. Bear with me through the waves. I'll ramble for you guys. I don't think I have her set up. Oh, well, there you go. See, there's a couple sleeps that came out from her because I do have her set to do, or I do have her using that ability to do sleep. So it's because I don't need to turn them off, right? Like, you don't need to turn those abilities off at all. You can just say, hey, yeah, go ahead. Do what you want to do. You saw a bunch of turn meter reduction there off of her A1. After this, I'll also go over her kit. The fact that she doesn't need any books, which is important, or at least not for what you want her to do. So that's very valuable. If you're lucky enough to pull her early, I pulled her incredibly late on my main account. Literally, I got Alure and then I got Newt a few days later. So back here on Dark Fae, we're going to go ahead and wipe the team. Yep, there we go. We're going to go ahead and wipe the team. Had me nervous for a second. So they do steal. Let me see if I can hit that. All right. Now we can kind of see how everything goes. Now, yes, I have Newt, right? Yes, I have other really enemy max HP champions, but you can see Alure right there. She's keeping that turn meter down and allowing us to get that damage in. There again, that was a lot of turn meter she took off. Granted, she was already going to die. This team is pretty well tuned. But that turn meter reduction does make a difference. And if you're struggling on Dark Fae, consider bringing an Alure, right? Obviously, Newt makes it easy. Odin makes it easy. Like, there are a lot of reasons that this team is successful. It's not all because of Alure. But at the end of the day, I need turn meter manipulation. And she brings that for me. She brings a consistent turn meter manipulation in case things don't go perfect every time. There are times when, because of the way that the team setup works, there are times where Newt decides that he needs to A3 the copy of Thor. Well, then she has way more health, and I need to manipulate that turn meter. Also, when we're dealing with higher difficulties levels, she has more HP, more survivability, higher defense. We're not able to do as much damage to her quickly, so we need to have that ability to prevent her from taking turns so she doesn't steal our team again, and that's where Alure really comes in. Now, if you were talking about a traditional version of Fire Knight, like normal Fire Knight, Alure is going to be the key for you. She will lock him down, keep that turn meter under control. You'll probably want to bring an ally attacker of some kind just to try and make sure that you're landing those turn meter manipulation buffs, but she is amazing and she doesn't get enough credit. Now, I mentioned it already, but you want to be careful because another champion that you do want to manipulate turn meter on, at least on normal, is Spider, but she won't work there. She doesn't manipulate turn meter very well against Spider because all the little spiderlings will make her attack go in different directions. So you gotta watch out for that there. Likewise on Ice Golem, I think you can manipulate his turn meter on normal, but it's the same thing. He has 2 adds, so it's very difficult to land that turn meter manipulation if you're trying to do that. But there are a lot of bosses in the Doom Tower where turn meter manipulation will be good for you. Not as many, right? Actually, one to consider, which is actually kind of surprising, but if you can get consistent shielding on your team, you do want to manipulate the turn meter of the boss, the Scarab boss. One thing to note is that he is resistant to it, but not the way that you may think. Almighty Persistence. This is something that will happen as you get to the higher difficulty bosses. All turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when used against the boss. That's very, very important to understand, that you will get to a point with the higher difficulty bosses where she's going to reduce the turn meter less, but she's still effective in doing so. And furthermore, one thing to consider for her is the relic, because I think, doesn't this turn meter reduction effects? Yeah, so we can boost her turn meter reduction effects. I'll give this a quick upgrade so that she can do a little bit better, right? But it's still not going to be the best, but it is something to consider. Putting that relic on will make her more effective in those areas. And I talked about her not needing books. We don't need books on her because notice that there's no increase in percentage. This is 100%. It doesn't say 100%, but this will happen every time if the attack is critical. That's why all you need to do is give her 100% crit rate and then survivability. She is a little bit squishy, speed as well. So I have her built. This is my build on her. 48,000 HP. Look at how little defense. 793 base defense. So only 1405. But we do have 246 speed. And I'm only at 98% crit rate. That's just unfortunate. Honestly, no excuse for that whatsoever. And you'll also notice, this is a good little trick for her, because I mentioned the Scarab boss. She's really, really good. You can get a Blood Shield ring on her. Because if we go back to the Scarab boss just a little bit here, when he does take his turn, he has a chance to remove shields. Each extra hit steals 1 random buff from enemies that have no shield buffs and removes 1 random buff under enemies under a shield buff, right? So there's a chance that that 1 random buff could be the shield that they currently have, right? So you don't want him to take this turn. Now that's not his A1. This is his A1 right here, but you don't want them to do this ability. So by shielding herself, she can help manipulate that turn meter and prevent him from getting turns. Now, is this the best strategy? Is this like the top strategy? No, it's not. But it's a very, very good option if you're struggling against this boss. If you can manage to get a Blood Shield ring and a lure, that can be really effective for you. Furthermore, if you are able to build her, and this is a big if, the Destroy set. So I don't keep a lot of pieces of this on hand, but if you are looking, well, she's not going to do enough damage, so never mind. That's the one trade-off that you kind of suffer from her. She's not like a really big hitter. Even if you were to put her in a Destroy set, she's not going to do enough damage, really. So if it were me, I would just put her in a Blood Shield ring. That keeps a shield on her, and she can reduce the turn meter of the boss, preventing, trying to prevent him from taking turns and allowing you to keep your shields up against him as an option. So that's a strategy I used back in the day. Now I have Vargal. Vargal is just a cheat code against this guy because he just destroys his HP like crazy. So I don't really need to do any tricks like that. But when I was struggling in the early game, Allure got me through that very well. So she is a very, very good champion still to this day in a lot of areas. Is she better than Newt? No. If you have Newt, you don't need Allure anymore. It's plain and simple. You might still want her for areas like Dark Fae. As you can see, I use her in my team there, but the reality is you don't need her anymore. If you don't have Newt, and I know a lot of you don't because you always get so mad at me for having one, she can be that saving grace for normal, Fire Knight, Dark Fae, and some other bosses in the game that can be manipulated or can have their turn be manipulated. So very, very good champion still. I want to make sure she gets to shine and make sure that new players, because that's the idea here, is giving advice for players of all different levels. If you are a new player, she is going to be one of those champions that will drastically help your account and get you to the point where you can get a newt or something else to fill that gap. So short video today, but I just want to say thank you guys so much for all of your support. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. It is the best way to support the channel, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the next video. Take care.